Welcome to Fan for Racing Radio. I'm Fan for Racing Sharon, and joining me today is Jay Huseman, and we are here for our Darlington preview for the NASCAR Cup Series. And Jay, it's going to be a fun one.
Darlington, you definitely got to be buckled in. Talking about being buckled.
Buckle up, Buttercup, because you were going to have quite the ride at Darlington this weekend. So we'll see what happens, but we'll get you all ready and set for this race. The Goodyear 400 at Darlington Raceway will happen Sunday, March the 22nd. Again, this is a 1.366 mile asphalt oval. The race starts at 3 p.m. Eastern time, but Fox Sports 1 will actually have pre-race coverage available starting at 1:30 p.m. And I'll explain why in just a few minutes. This is also going to be on radio coverage for MRN and SiriusXM NASCAR Channel 90. They're going to race a distance of 400.2 miles over 293 laps. The first stage is 90 laps ending on lap 90. Second stage is going to be 95 laps ending on lap 185. And then the final stage will end on lap 293. Did you know, Jay, that this weekend is NASCAR Alumni Weekend at Darlington Raceway, and several of the greats of the sports are going to be in attendance?
Yeah, as part of that, I know the throwback weekend is kind of scaled back a little bit, but a lot of the teams still doing the paint schemes, but they've incorporated that, and I thought that was huge when they did it, and I love to see it. We've seen some great drivers come back through there, so yeah, definitely looking forward to that. The drivers we grew up watching, or, well, yes. I don't know about grew up, but we remember in a prime of watching.
Yes. Now you can catch the Cup Series practice and Busch Light pole qualifying on Prime Video this weekend. That's going to be on Saturday, March the 21st. And then MRN and SiriusXM will also have that available starting at 2:30 p.m. Eastern time. The race, as we mentioned, does start at 3 o'clock Eastern, but they will and that's going to be on Fox Sports 1 and MRN, but they're going to also have that pre-race coverage on Fox Sports 1 starting at 1:30 Eastern time.
And the more intake you can get, again, of just engaging and understanding the sport, just adds to it, in my opinion.
It does indeed. Let's talk about Denny Hamlin's legacy.
Well, I got first, before you get to that, looking at the entry list, I got good news and bad news. Yeah, the good news is there's 37 drivers and teams. Timmy Hill in the number 66 is an open team. The bad news there, if you check out the full entry list page, is Justin Allgaier subbing because Alex Bowman is out for, they've said, another 3 weeks. So Justin Allgaier stepping in, been doing a good job, but unfortunately Alex Bowman's still out due to medical issues.
In 3 weeks, wow. I'm glad that they're giving him the time that he needs to fully recover before he gets back behind the wheel. But I'm sad for Alex Bowman because he's just off to such a horrible start. But he'll have a time to see what he can do when he comes back. And I know that when he does come back, Hendrick Motorsports is already looking at requesting that waiver. They haven't done it yet, so we'll see what happens as the season progresses here.
All right. With that, now you mentioned Denny Hamlin already adding to a legacy, not just building, but adding to it as he picked up 61st career wins. He is now 10th all-time after breaking a tie with Kevin Harvick. He became the 5th different driver to win in 20 different seasons after winning at Las Vegas last weekend, and it's his 17th win since turning 40. Now here, Hamlin won both the Spring Darlington race and the Spring Martinsville race last year, which are the next two on the 2026 schedule. So just talking about being a chase contender and in that contention, look out, he could go on one of those streaks.
He definitely could. A lot of people were not sure how he would do coming into this season, but Denny Hamlin said after he got behind the wheel, he just reminded him of just how much he loves racing. And I think he's going to be around yet for a while. And I think his legacy, as you said, is just going to continue to grow here. So I've enjoyed seeing a different Denny Hamlin this season as well.
Well, and they say winning cures everything, right?
Yes, indeed. Let's talk about his dominance. He's a 5-time Darlington winner. His average finish at this track is 7.9. That's the best all time by a driver with more than 2 starts. So he might be one of your picks this weekend. He finished top 5 in 52% and top 10 in 74% of his Darlington starts. He's led 21 of his 27 Darlington starts, including the last 12, and he scored stage points in all but 7 stages at Darlington. That's a total of 32 stages, so incredible stats here. His average running position and the top 10 in 21 of the last 24 races at Darlington, and Hamlin led in the last 12 Darlington races. That's the longest streak at a track since Darrell Waltrip had 17 straight from 76 to 84. So just evidence of why he is building up legend status with his dominance.
Well, and we're going to have to find some tremendous stats for me to go against picking somebody else after reading all that.
Yes.
And we mentioned the best average finish all time at Darlington, 3 or more starts. Denny Hamlin with his 27 at 7.89. Look at who he's above. Bill Elliott at 9.37 with 52 starts. Herb Thomas with 7 at a 10.43, 10.5 for Nelson Stacy. The man in black at the track at black, Dale Earnhardt, 11.41 in 44 starts. Current driver Tyler Reddick at 11.54 over 13. Jeff Gordon, 11.61. Man, I thought Gordon would have been better there, but that was over 36 starts. Then you got a couple of veteran old school drivers, Marvin Ponch and David Pearson, and Brad Keselowski just made the list.
I'm surprised only 3 active drivers on that list, Jay.
Well, again, and we talked about it. It's a veterans track of
Yes.
You don't luck into a win at Darlington. First time winners is rare. We'll see what happens this weekend, but odds are, pick one of your veteran drivers. Kyle Larson is another one I would have thought but I know he can get the fence, not just touch the fence, but get the fence. So I guess that drags his average down. Now, when you look at streaks, we talked about consecutive races led at Darlington. David Pearson with 18. That ran from April of 72 to September of 1980. Darrell Waltrip mentioned his 17. And then Bobby Allison, 13. Fireball Roberts at 13. Denny Hamlin right there with 12. Started in May of 2020 and is currently active. If he can lead, he'll catch up to Bobby Allison and Fireball Roberts. I mean, that's a list of legends, as you mentioned, to be on the list and tying and moving up.
And talk about impressive. That is impressive. If he's able to do that this weekend, I'm definitely going to watch for that. Okay, now Denny Hamlin's most wins by track. He's got the most wins at Pocono. His most wins also at 7. At Martinsville, he has 6. Then at a couple of tracks here, Richmond and Darlington, he's got 5. And Bristol and Kansas, he has 4. His best average finish by track, Darlington at the top of that list, followed by Richmond at 8.2, Nashville at 9.0, Martinsville at 9.8, New Hampshire 9.9, and Miami at 10.2. So that's with a minimum of 3 starts. Those are some impressive stats all in the top 10 for his best average finish at tracks. And that's 6 different tracks. He's got a best average finish 10 and higher. So that's impressive.
A couple of them a little surprising. I wouldn't have had Darlington as high on either of these lists, and it's at the top as far as average finish. The wins, I was fairly certain was Pocono. I would have put Richmond second. It's third. But I would not have realized how good he was here at Darlington. So learning some stuff. Most Cup seasons with a win. Richard Petty leading that with 23, Bobby Allison 20, as well as Dale Earnhardt and Jeff Gordon, Denny Hamlin, and then Kurt and Kyle Busch at 19 each, the Busch brothers. Again, Denny Hamlin's not necessarily consecutive, nor is Kyle Busch's, but that's still, again, just talking about the legacy and being a legend in this sport, Denny Hamlin already there. Wins after 700 starts. Again, Richard Petty at the top, as he will be in most categories when it comes to stuff like this, but 22. But then you have Kevin Harvick at 7, Jeff Gordon at 6, Mark Martin, Denny Hamlin at 5 each. And here we have Busch and Rudd with 3, Elliott, Allison, and Labonte of 1 each. And then most wins after 40 years old. And this is an actual very accomplishment, as we've seen, especially in the current generation. But Lee Petty leads at 42, and that's after they're 40 years old. Bobby Allison, 38. Kevin Harvick, 29. Dale Earnhardt, 26. Dale Jarrett, 24. Cale Yarbrough, 23. David Pearson, 21. Harry Gant, Handsome Harry, 18. Denny Hamlin right there in that category area with 17, as well as Matt Kenseth. And believe it or not, this one was Richard Petty's at the bottom of this list with only 16 after he turned 40.
That's amazing. And look at the people on this list again. Only one active driver, and that is Denny Hamlin on that list. Okay, oldest drivers to win a championship in 83, that was Bobby Allison. He was 45 years, 11 months, and 17 days. Lee Petty's on this list twice. In 58, he was 44 years, 7 months, and 12 days. In 59, 45 years, 7 months, and 11 days. So that was within a year and 1 day. Yeah. Okay. In 94, it was Dale Earnhardt at 43 years, 6 months, and 15 days. Now, this is where Denny Hamlin comes in. Denny Hamlin will turn 46 on November 18th of this year. The season finale is scheduled for November 8th. So can he be on this list? When he turns 46, he would become the oldest driver if he were able to win that championship this year. That's incredible, Jay.
Yeah, because it would be 20 days, which Bobby Allison was 11 or 17 days. And we almost saw him get on this list at age 45 or 44, turning 45 by almost winning last year. And we see that he is continuing that hot streak and dominance into this year. So, yeah, he definitely could get himself on that list.
He certainly could. So keep an eye on that for this year. I think Darlington could be amazing for Denny Hamlin.
Certainly could be. And when we talk about all-time wins, Richard Petty, the king, 200. David Pearson, the only other one with over 100 at 105. Jeff Gordon coming in at 93. Look at the two active drivers, though. Denny Hamlin moving up this list as he bumped Kevin Harvick down to 11th. Kyle Busch 2 in front of him. And the way they're running right now, we may see that swap here in the next couple of weeks because Kyle Busch is not on a hot streak.
Again, only 2 drivers active on that list. Okay, let's talk about Chase Briscoe because Chase Briscoe at Darlington is usually pretty good. He led 309 laps in last year's Southern 500, the most in a Darlington race since April of 1986, when Dale Earnhardt led 335. He finished top 5 in 3 of the last 4 Darlington races, top 3 in 4 of the last 6 Darlington stages. He's led 84% of the Southern 500 laps in 2025, and he won 2 of the last 3 races at Darlington. So he has some dominance at Darlington. He's probably the closest competitor to Denny Hamlin, I would say. The most laps led in a cup race at Darlington. Chase Briscoe on this list, the only active driver. In August of 25, he had 309. Compared to Johnny Mance at the top of the list at 351. And that was in September of 19 50. And just look at some of these other greats that are on this list, including Dale Earnhardt in April of 86, 335, Bobby Allison in September of 71 at 329. Chase Briscoe looking to break down some walls here as a current driver with that 309 laps that he led last year.
And when we look at his laps led in a race in the Cup Series, Darlington at the top of the list now with 309 and he finished first. Then you had Bristol in 2025, the fall race, 127 laps, but finished ninth. At Martinsville in 23, led 109, finished fifth. Phoenix of 2022, he finished first, leading 101 laps. And then Iowa in 2025 led 81 laps and finished second. And he's been running up front. This one, the laps led by tracks. Darlington at the 338, Martinsville 142, Bristol 127, Phoenix 117, and Daytona 107.
Now, Chase Briscoe's had a really rough start to this season, but what we saw at Las Vegas, I think, gives us hope that he's back on the right track.
Most certainly, as he's kind of flipped the switch, hopefully permanently.
I hope so. Okay, this talks about his tumultuous 26 season right here. At Daytona, he actually was collected in a crash on lap 85 and finished 36th. Atlanta, he actually recovered from being shuffled to 19th on lap 251. He ended up finishing in second. Then he had a couple of bad ones. Coda, he broke a transaxle on lap 62 while running third. At Phoenix, he finished 37th after he crashed at lap 132 after the right front tire blew while running in fourth place. Then in that Las Vegas, he got that top 10 finish of eighth. He overcame penalties for pit road speeding on lap 32 and pitted outside his box on lap 84. So two adversities there that he overcame for that eighth place finish. Chase Briscoe earned 2 points or less in 3 of the last 5 races. He is 26th in points right now after those horrible finishes that he had. 179 points out of the lead and 41 points out of the top 16. Among the 15 drivers with an average start better than 17th, Chase Briscoe is the only without any stage points in stage 1. So he's had a really, as I said, tumultuous start. I hope he can keep the good side of that start going when he comes to Darlington, because he's good at Darlington.
There's a couple of notes I took from that, though. Of you mentioned not getting stage points, and that's kind of what's hurting him in the overall point standings now.
Yes.
But also the 2 of the races where he had problems, he was running third and fourth. So he is running good, just not getting the finishes. And the other thing that hit me here, he fits what I would expect from a good Darlington driver. When we look at some dirt track drivers, I know I talked about this on Hot Topics with Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. Denny Hamlin didn't quite fit that mold, but has some good statistics. This one comes from iRacing, not the dirt background, but iRacing. We're going to talk about William Byron's Darlington excellence. He's led the opening 243 laps at Darlington last April, which is the most laps led from the start in track history. And he won both stages, but then finished the race in second. When we look at where that ranks, you see it highlighted there. You had Cale Yarbrough, led 500 at Bristol. Cale Yarbrough, 420 at the Nashville Fairgrounds. That was back in 73 and 78. Also in 78, Darrell Waltrip led 381 at North Wilkesboro. Jeff Burton, 300, and that was all of them at New Hampshire in 2000. And then Harry Gant, 252 at North Wilkesboro in 1991. So, yeah, that is pretty impressive and gets him up on a list with some legends.
Yes, indeed. The only active driver on that list. William Byron's most laps led in a race. Darlington's on that list, but at the top of the list is Martinsville just last year in October, 304. He finished first in that race. In May of last year at Charlotte, he led 283 laps, finishing second. Darlington in April last year, he led 243 laps with a second place finish. And then in 22, in April, again, Martinsville, he led 212 laps and finished first. And in May of 23, he led 193 laps at Dover and finished in fourth. But Darlington, yeah, that's pretty impressive. 3 of those races are all last year, which says a lot about William Byron and the success that he's had. He's got the most top 5 finishes by track. He's got 6 at Martinsville. He's got 5 at both Darlington and Talladega. I would say William Byron has to be part of the conversation this weekend at Darlington.
And especially being paired up with Hendrick Motorsports, which we'll talk about here next. But Darlington, Martinsville, you saw at the top of those lists of those tracks that you either hit it and get it or you don't. And until you do, it's a struggle. Now, when we look at the Hendrick Motorsports win by season, the last 5 years, William Byron in 2021 got a win in race number 3 at Miami. Kyle Larson, race number 2 at California in 2022. But then for a couple years, William Byron been getting it done early. 2023, he picked up the win in race number 3 at Vegas. Previous 2 years, he got it at Daytona, back-to-back Daytona winners. Now, Hendrick Motorsports scored their first win of the season at Darlington twice, and that came with Jimmy Johnson in 04 and 12. So they're looking to get back on that list because this is race number 4.
No, this is going to be race.
Oh, this is race 5 or 6.
Yeah, this is race number 6. And a lot of people have been saying, what happened to William Byron? He usually gets a win in one of the first 5 races. If you look at this, it shows you that he's been able to do that in those first 5 races, first 3 races, actually, in 4 out of the 5 years that are highlighted here. So we'll see if he can get that win maybe at Darlington this weekend. Time tells the rest of the story. But Eric Jones is another driver to keep your eye on at Darlington. Eric Jones is a 2-time winner at Darlington. He also has 6 top 5s in Darlington, including a 3rd just last fall. And his 6 top 5s at Darlington are his most at a track. So maybe this will be a good weekend for Legacy Motor Club and Eric Jones. He's got 2 wins. That ranks first for his best tracks for Eric Jones. He's got 6 top 5s, again first, 9 top 10s. Darlington is his number 1 track. He's got an average finish of 12.8, second among his best tracks. And laps led, 132, again second. His average finish ranking is among active tracks only. So pretty cool to see these kind of stats for Eric Jones. I say, can he do it at Darlington? Looking at these stats, do you think he's got a good chance at this weekend?
Yeah, and he is the driver I had in mind specifically when I said of it, you, for whatever reason, you know, it hit the setup, hit the driving style, whatever, certainly has fit Eric Jones without a doubt. Now, we talked about Darlington and how unique it is. Let's look at some of the race characteristics. This is the 130th Cup race at Darlington. That's 4th most among all tracks. There were at least 6 cautions in each of the last 19 Darlington races. The final green flag stretch was less than 17 laps in only 2 of the last 11 Darlington races. And only 2 of the last 18 races ended in overtime, but that does include last April. Now, the race winner averages 8 stops per race. That's the 2nd most of all tracks in the next-gen car to Charlotte, which is 10.
It's a short track, and you're going to see short track racing this weekend, that's for sure. Okay, recent race patterns. The last 4 spring Darlington races had a lead change in the final 10 laps. Last April's race at Darlington had 4 lead changes. That's the fewest for a Cup Series race at Darlington since the inaugural Southern 500 back in 1950. That is a big wow. 5 of the last 8 Darlington races had a caution in the first 6 laps, including the last 3. And last fall, Southern 500 had 2 DNFs. That's tied for the fewest ever at Darlington, March in 1999 and May of 2008. So that's, wow, a 3-way tie there for the fewest ever at Darlington. When you talk about leading versus winning at Darlington, the driver who led the most laps failed to win in 8 of the last 11 Darlington races. I mentioned that last week when they were saying that the person who leads the most laps generally wins at Las Vegas. This is where you see it completely opposite of that here at Darlington. A driver swept the stages 9 times at Darlington, including the last 3 races, but only went on to win twice. Martin Truex Jr. did it in May of 2021, and then Chase Briscoe's win in August of 25, just last year. That tells you how good Chase Briscoe is at this track.
You know, and it kind of makes me think of, you know, we talk about Charlotte being the endurance because you have the extra 600. Darlington is one of those of, yeah, you've been running so close to the wall, and in the final stretch, kind of get too close and maybe bump it or damage the car too much.
Perseverance comes to mind, Jay.
There you go. Yep. So when we look at those drivers leading the most laps over the last 11 races, 2020, it was Martin Truex Jr. Leading 196, but finished 22nd. In 21, in the spring, he redeemed himself, leading 240 laps and winning the race. The fall race, it was Kyle Larson, led 156 laps, but finished second. Then it was Joey Logano in 2022, 107 laps, and picked up the victory after leading those 107 laps. In the fall race, there it was Kyle Busch, 155 laps, but finished 30th. And this is where there's a stretch, 30th, 31st, 25th, and 32nd. Martin Truex in the 23 spring race, 145 laps. Denny Hamlin, a fall, 177. Tyler Reddick, 174 in the spring of 24. Then Kyle Larson in the fall, 263. But that one got back into the single digits as far as finish. Kyle Larson was 4th. In 2025, it was William Byron, 243. We talked about finishing 2nd. And Chase Briscoe in the fall, 309 with 1. Now, keep in mind, we're back to the spring race, so we'll see who favors in the spring race. It appears to be Hendrick Motorsports, but that's not the guarantee.
What pops out to me here, Jay, is there's only 3 times that a driver led the most laps and won the race out of all of these races.
Yeah, and that is abnormal, especially when you were comparing to talking about winning, sweeping the stages, but not getting the wins. Like I said, I don't know if that's that lose that edge of got a little too close to the wall.
We'll see what happens this weekend. Something to watch for sure. Okay, Darlington stage winners, the last 6 races and where they finished. Okay, now we're going to talk about the stages, Jay. This shows you, now more recently, the trend is picking up, but going back to 23, Martin Truex won stage 1, but ended up finishing in 31st. Ross Chastain won stage 2, but finished 29th. In 23 falls race, it was Denny Hamlin winning stage 1, but finishing 25th. He also won stage 2, but again, finished in 25th. Now going to the 2 races in 24, in the spring race, Kyle Larson won stage 1, but finished 31st. Tyler Reddick won stage 2, but finished 32nd. Now take a look how the trend changes in the fall race. Kyle Larson won that fall race, stage 1, ended up in 4th, though. At least that's in the top 5. He also won stage 2 and also had that 4th place finish. Then going to 25, William Byron won both stages and ended up finishing at 2nd place. That's top 3. Finally, in 25 in the fall race, or that late summer race, Chase Briscoe won both stages and ended up winning the race. That trend finally switched just in August of last year. Now, Truex, just to give you some perspective on this, Truex was spun on a restart in lap 281. Chastain actually wrecked Larson battling for the lead on lap 288 in that May race of 23. Hamlin had a loose wheel on lap 273 and was involved in an accident on lap 331 in the September 23 race. Reddick was wrecked while battling for the lead with Buescher on lap 286 in May of 24, and Larson lost the lead on the final pit stop with 30 laps to go in the September 24 race. So that gives you the explanation of why there's such a difference here between those early races and the more recent races. So we'll see how the trend, if they keep this trend of top fives or even winning, going into the spring race this year.
Well, it also made me think back to, we were talking about this, of Denny Hamlin almost losing the race at Las Vegas. When you are out front, what adjustments are you making to your car to make it better versus the competition, knowing they got to change something to get better, catching up to you? So yeah, there were some incidences here that you explained, but that might be a factor too, if you don't know what adjustments to make when you're already up front running.
And it's not unusual for incidences to happen at Darlington.
Certainly not. You mentioned reading some of those stage wins. The total, 7 stage wins for Martin Truex, 6 for Kyle Larson, 4 for William Byron. Then you got 3 for Denny Hamlin. Bunch have 2, Kyle Busch, Clint Boyer, Ross Chastain, and Chase Briscoe. And then 4 more drivers all have 1. So again, that list relatively short if you think about it, of stage wins. And I know stage wins is relatively recent. And I look back when this first started, Martin Truex, I think, is the first one to really understand how important those stage wins and points were, because he capitalized on it for a championship that first year.
Darlington's breakthrough history here. Every winner at Darlington since 2006 had a minimum of 100 starts. Again, veteran track. You don't see people getting that win unless they've got at least 100 starts under their belt. 6 drivers earned their first Cup win at Darlington. 4 of them got their only Cup victory at Darlington. That's an interesting stat. Also, 9 drivers snapped a 50-plus winless streak at Darlington. That's tied for the most among non-drafting tracks with Phoenix, another track very similar to Darlington. There are differences, but that's probably the closest that's similar. Some of those first-time winners, let's see, there's nobody on here who is an active driver. Most of these drivers are drivers that are now retired, but it goes all the way back to 1950 with Johnny Mance to 2011 with Regan Smith. Only career Cup Series win. Those drivers that you see that asterisk next to their name, that was their only win in the Cup Series, is their first time win at Darlington. So that's very interesting. And the tracks with the most 50 plus, where they broke that 50 plus winless streak, it was snapped at Talladega with 10, Daytona with 9, along with Darlington and Phoenix, and then Pocono with 8. That's some very interesting stats there.
It is. And when we look at those winless streaks of 50 races broken at Darlington, goes back to Buddy Baker, who was on a 56 or 57 race winless streak in 1970. Harry Gant in 89 was at 91. Bill Elliott in 94 at 53. This one was huge. Ward Burton, the only one. Oh, no, there's a couple more. He is the highest, though. In 2000, it was at 132. He did it again in 2001 after a 54 race streak of going back to back at Darlington. And then Terry Labonte. Oh, actually, Terry Labonte's got the highest, 157. I didn't see his. 03. 110 for Eric Jones when he got his first one. Remember Brad Keselowski in 2024. His was at 111. And then Chase Briscoe in 2024 was on a 94 winless streak. And the interesting thing here, we're talking about the winless streak over 50 races. Cole Custer currently at 138. Highlight, second one, Eric Jones, 120. And we've talked about how good he is. Kyle Busch, we talked about his struggle, 98. He could do it there at Darlington. Michael McDowell at 89. Daniel Suarez at 75. Suarez off to a good start this year. Brad Keselowski, could he do it again at 64? AJ Allmendinger at 61. Yeah, it's not quite road racing style. I don't know what his stats are there, but then Alex Bowman at 55, and obviously we talked about that, not going to be able to this weekend. And then Brad Keselowski's only Cup win in the number 6 was at Darlington in May of 2024. And again, he's now on a 64 winless streak. So, man, there's a couple of ones that would make some great stories coming out of this weekend if it were to happen.
Yes, I see some awesome storylines. I hope Daniel Suarez and Ross Chastain work out their differences because Darlington is one of those tracks.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to be working them out on the track at Darlington.
No. Okay, let's talk about the most races run at a track. Most races run at a track. Daytona at the top of the list at 158 races. Martinsville pretty close second at 154. Then Richmond at 137. Darlington 129. Charlotte and Bristol both at 127, and Atlanta at 124. So, wow, those are all tracks that have 100 or more races. These are your, I'm not going to say crown jewels, but these are your legendary tracks in NASCAR.
Yeah, they're definitely the core tracks. I might have had them all on the list. I don't know if I'd have had them in that order, though. I kind of thought Bristol and Charlotte would have been a little bit higher, but I don't go back that far.
Yeah, me either.
Yeah. Let's look at some other Darlington performance. The darlings of Darlington. Ross Chastain, average finish is 7.8 in the last 5 Darlington races, is the best of all drivers right now. But since the start of 2021, no driver has more top 10 finishes at Darlington than Chris Buescher with 10. Now, Denny Hamlin also has 10 since the start of 2021. That's one of those of, again, just kind of quiet and consistent. I like that about Chris Buescher.
I do too. Okay, the closest finishes in series history. Oh, there's been some good ones here that I remember anyway. In May of last year, there was a 1/1000th of a second at Kansas between Kyle Larson and Chris Buescher. Kyle Larson on top of that one. And going back to April of 2011 at Talladega, it was 2 1/1000ths of a second between Jimmy Johnson and Clint Boyer. And then at Darlington, and this one was amazing. I'll never forget this one. In March of 2003, the Darlington race, 2 1/1000ths of a second between Ricky Craven and Kurt Busch. And I mean, they were bumping and banging all the way to the finish line. And Ricky Craven came out on top there. But in February of 24 at Atlanta, it was 3 1/1000ths of a second between Daniel Suarez and Ryan Blaney, who ended up in second. So I love those close finishes.
Well, and you mentioned it, you take Talladega out of it because you kind of expect that on the super speedways. That closest being Kansas, it was memorable, but like you mentioned, the standout has to be that Ricky Craven, Kurt Busch battle. But also then Atlanta, and maybe it's because it is more recent, for me anyway, but that one was a 3-wide. Kyle Busch was involved in that as well. So that one also stands out for that reason.
Yes, indeed. I was thinking that was where that was, that 3-way.
Yep, it was, because Kyle Busch was in that as well. Now, when we look at consistency, there's where Tyler Reddick performance ranks in. He can become the 3rd driver to win 4 of the season's first 6 races. And that would put him on the list with Dale Earnhardt in 87 and Bill Elliott in 1992. 9 drivers finished in the top 5 at Darlington in 2025. Tyler Reddick was the only driver to finish top 5 in both of them, as he finished 4th and 2nd. When we look at his overall Darlington success, 4 top 3 finishes at Darlington with the next-gen car. That's the most of any driver. Started top 10 in the last 10 races at the track. And he finished top 5 in 5 of the last 8. And he got his first finish outside the top 10 at Las Vegas as he faded from 9th to 13th in those final 2 laps with a right front tire issue. Again, rough start to the season there. His bad finish is 13th.
Yeah, but he won 3 of those races to start the season. So he's had he's got a chance to continue to make history. Okay, Tyler Reddick's most laps led by track. Darlington at the top of the list, 322. Then it's the Bristol Dirt Race at 168, Texas 149, Richmond 130, COTA, the road course on this list, at 111, and Kansas 107. 2 of those races are 1.5 mile tracks. 2 of them are shorter tracks 3 are shorter tracks with Darlington, Bristol, and Richmond. Then let's look at the longest active top 10 streaks at Darlington. Denny Hamlin is at 4. Kyle Busch, Tyler Reddick, and Chris Buescher all standing at 3. So they got a chance to tie with Denny Hamlin, all 3 of those drivers this weekend.
See, and just talking about Tyler Reddick kind of leads me back to that dirt track or drivers that are willing to ride that ragged edge right up against the wall. And Tyler Reddick clearly fits in that category.
And do it without wrecking. That's the key.
Well, yeah, that is the key, yes. Yeah, there's a problem when you jump that edge or jump the cushion. Now let's look at some other 2026 season storylines. Qualifying impact, how the qualifying is affecting the points in 2026. Only 4 of the 13 drivers in 2026 with an average start outside the top 20 have earned any points in stage 1. We talked about a driver with that earlier. None of the 13 have more than 9 total stage points in the season earned in stage 2. Again, got to qualify and then run and then finish. It takes all 3.
It's the whole picture that unfortunately these teams have to look at when they're talking about qualifying and running the race. So it's a fine line because it's hard to have both, and especially at a track like Darlington. The qualifying as well as the race package. Driver performance updates. 25 of the 35 drivers to run all 5 races have at least one top 5 finish. That's incredible. Not really, but it is interesting.
It's rough start to a couple of those, and some of those 10 that haven't are drivers we feel should have.
Should have, exactly. 6 full-time drivers had their best finish of the season at Las Vegas. That's good news. And 6 drivers finished on the lead lap in all 5 races this season. So those 6 drivers are Reddick, Chase Elliott, Bubba Wallace, and all 3 RFK drivers, Brad Keselowski, Chris Buescher, and Ryan Preece. That is really great news for RFK. Ryan Blaney is the only driver to lead in all 5 races this season. So we'll see if he can continue that stat going into Darlington.
And that's one of those, that consistency. Chris Buescher is the one I had kind of at the top of the list. Ryan Preece has showed it in the years he's been at Cup racing, that consistency and maintaining, turning a bad day into at least a decent day. When we look at the stage and performance trends, stage 1 went caution-free in each of the last 4 races so far this year. There's been 8 different stage winners in 2026, with only Bubba Wallace and Christopher Bell winning multiple at 2 each. The stage winner, though, won only once this season. That was Ryan Blaney, who won at Phoenix after picking up stage 1. I wouldn't have realized that, huh? Christopher Bell, that one blew me away. Stage winner won only once this season, huh? Christopher Bell leads all drivers with 225 laps led in 2026. He led only 282 in all of 2025. So he's almost already surpassing what he did last year. When we look at the record-breaking statistics, 180 lead changes in 2026. That's the most through 5 races in a season. 31 different drivers have led, and that's the most through 5 races since 2014, when there was also 31. And 2026 is the 4th straight season with at least 1 race without a DNF. Every car was running at the finish of Las Vegas.
That's a really great stat. I like it when everybody finishes the race. Okay, now most drivers to lead through 5 races this season. We talked about it. It's been a good year, 31 this year. That comparing that with previous years, there's 3 years that they were at 31 with 2005, 14, and 26. But the ones that had more leaders were 2011 with 34 and 2010 with 33. That's kind of interesting. The most lead changes through 5 races in a season, 26 at the top of that list with 180. Then it goes to 24 with 177. In between was 25 with 174. Then you got to go back to 2010 and 2011. In 2010, it was 156. In 2011, 158.
And that tells me the next gen car is doing what NASCAR wanted it to do and level the playing field and get that close racing competition. So kudos to that.
And there you are, the proof in the pudding.
And drivers to finish on the lead lap in all 5 races this season. Talked about there being 6 of them. Not a surprise on this list. Tyler Reddick and his best finish is first at Daytona, Atlanta, and Coda. Chase Elliott, best finish is second at Las Vegas. Mentioned several getting their best finish at Vegas. Brad Keselowski was 5th. Best finish is 5th at Daytona. Then Bubba Wallace, 6th at Phoenix. Chris Buescher's came at Las Vegas with his 6th. Ryan Preece's was 9th, though, and that was at Atlanta.
Okay, now most laps are run in the top 5 this year. There have been a total of 1,445 total laps. Christopher Bell tops the list. He's been in the top 5 in 631 of those laps. Tyler Reddick, 499, followed by Denny Hamlin at 470, Kyle Larson at 437, William Byron at 412, and Ryan Blaney at 402. Then you drop down under 400. Bubba Wallace very close at 399, but then it drops to 338 for Joey Logano, 272 for Ty Gibbs, and Chase Elliott at 220. So, wow, Christopher Bell really excels there above everybody else with those laps led in the top 5. Most laps run in the top 10 this year. Total again, 1145 for the total laps. Tyler Reddick, 916. That is impressive. Then it's William Byron at 818, Christopher Bell, 783, Bubba Wallace, 742, and then Denny Hamlin at 710. Then we drop below 700 with Kyle Larson and Ryan Blaney in the 600s. 670 for Kyle Larson, 659 for Ryan Blaney. And then dropping below the 600 mark is Chase Elliott, Joey Logano, and Ty Gibbs. They're all over 500. Chase Elliott, 562, Joey Logano, 523, and Ty Gibbs at 505.
Well, I'll cover both, the good and the bad on this one. The best average finish in all 5 races, Tyler Reddick, 4.8. Again, that goes with the 3 victories he started out the season with. That helps your average. Yes, Bubba Wallace, his teammate, second right there at 8.8. Chase Elliott, mentioned that. This chase format going to fit Chase Elliott's driving style, 9.4. The only 3 under 10. Just over 10, you got Denny Hamlin at 12, Ryan Blaney, 12.4, William Byron, 12.6, and Kyle Larson, 12.8. Christopher Bell, 13.0. They all go up by 0.2. That's kind of coincidental. But on the flip side, and we mentioned a couple of these, worst average finish amongst the first 5 races, Austin Cindric, who was a 2025 playoff driver, as was Josh Berry and Chase Briscoe also on this list. Cindric at 29.0. Connor Zilisch, he is a rookie, I get that, but we expected a little bit more out of him, 27.6. Cole Custer, 27.4, 27.2 for Josh Berry. Cody Ware, 26.6. Todd Gillen, another one, man, every time I think he's turning the corner, 26.2. And then Chase Briscoe at 24.0. Now, we mentioned Briscoe. Looks like they've kind of turned, along with Christopher Bell, climbing out of the hole.
Now, let me just, Connor Zilisch, what that speaks to, I think, is the transition from the Xfinity Series to the Cup Series is extremely difficult. And I heard Godfather Moody talking about this the other day, and he says it's not just a little bit of difference, it is miles of difference between the Xfinity Series car and the Cup Series next gen car. So it is a big adjustment for drivers like Connor Zilisch, who we know is a great driver. Same thing with Cole Custer and Josh Berry, Todd Gilliland, Chase Briscoe. Chase Briscoe's made that adjustment. I think and like you said, for him, I think he's running the top 10 throughout this season, but he's had some mechanical issues and incidences that have affected his start to the season.
Yeah, just not getting those finishes, unfortunately.
Exactly. Todd Gilliland, we know, had some good runs last year. It just hasn't been his year this year. But it's going to be interesting. I think Cole Custer struggled with the next-gen car, and I think we're seeing that from Connor Zilisch as well. And Austin Cindric, if it wasn't for bad luck, he wouldn't have any luck at all.
Right, yeah.
He's just had a horrible start to this season.
I don't know what color the horseshoe is that he's got, but it's not gold.
It's not a golden horseshoe. Yeah. Okay, the most laps led in 2026 again. Christopher Bell at the top of that list. I wish they would have given us the total laps. 225. Denny Hamlin, one of the drivers in the hundreds here. Christopher Bell, the only driver over 200. The drivers over 100, Joey Logano at 111, Tyler Reddick 112, Kyle Larson at 117, and then Denny Hamlin at that 152. The drivers below 100, Bubba Wallace at 86, Chase Briscoe 58, and Ryan Blaney at 52. So that's kind of interesting. Most stage points through these 5 races, including the duel. You've got Bubba Wallace at the top here. That's good news for Bubba Wallace. 53 stage points, and he is second in the points position because of that. Ryan Blaney has 46. He's third again. Those stage points making the difference for both of those drivers. You see them at the bottom of the list for points led, but they're at the top of the list because of those stage points and points. Christopher Bell, though, has 43 stage points, making him sixth. Tyler Reddick has 37. He's first. Kyle Larson, 36 stage points, puts him seventh. William Byron, 35th in stage points. 35 stage points puts him eighth in the point standings. Denny Hamlin has 31 along with Joey Logano, but Denny Hamlin is fourth in the points while Joey Logano is 11th. So Joey Logano's had a little bit of up and down this season. Austin Cindric, he's got 30 stage points, but he's still 30th in the points. That's how bad of a season he's had. And Chase Elliott has 30 stage points that puts him fifth. It makes me feel sad for Austin Cindric. He's getting those stage points. He's just not getting the finishes.
Yeah, and so I won't pile on that. I will go to Bubba Wallace, though. In years past, seen him consistent, but his consistency was around 15th, right on the playoff chase cut line. And seeing him up front in second in points this year, I just hope that continues. Now, when we look at that biggest improvement through 5 races, and this highlights it, Bubba Wallace at the top of the list, a 14.2 differential, having an average finish of 23.0 last year, up to 8.8 this year. Brad Keselowski is second with 11.4 positions gained, 24.8 down to 13.4. Ty Gibbs, another one. He started out looking really good, went through a little bit of a slump. Average finish for the year, 25.8 last year, down to 14.6, is up 11.2. Tyler Reddick, an 8.8 gain, and this is a kind of a surprising one because it was 13.6. You gain 8 positions, that puts you at 4.8. Here's the one we've talked about for the 2 years now, Shane Van Gisbergen. We know he was good on road courses, but total average finish 25.4 last year, down to 17.0 this year, gain of 8.4. AJ Allmendinger's picked up 6.4 as well, going from 23 flat to 16.6. And then Ryan Blaney, another one I wouldn't have thought needed to improve much, but went from 18.6. He had a lot of DNFs last year, down to 12.4 this year. The decline, and you can't get any more highlighted than, or bad lighted than Austin Cindric. He's got a 29.0 average finish this year compared to 17.2 last year. That's 11.8 positions worse. Josh Berry, another one, again, playoff contending drivers last year, 27.2 from 18.6 is a loss of 8.6. John Hunter Nemechek, semi-consistent, but 21.6 up over 14.2 last year, 7.4, as is Stenhouse. His was 23.4 this year, 16.0 last year, right on that cut line. And then the last one we talked about, Todd Gillen, 26.2 compared to 19.6 last year, loss of 6.6.
Okay, 25 playoff drivers outside the chase position. Now they rank that going from Ross Chastain, Dillon, Briscoe, Cindric, Josh Berry, and Alex Bowman. Bowman did not start at Phoenix or Las Vegas, and now we know he's going to be missing 3 more races. So he's in really bad shape to start out this season. The one in the best position here is Ross Chastain. So I'll let you look at the stats yourself here. And then in without a top 10 finish this season, you got Dillon, Bowman, and Cindric. The best finish for Dillon was a 12th at Las Vegas. Bowman was 23rd at Atlanta, and Cindric 19th at Las Vegas. So, this is going to be interesting to see if they can pull themselves out of it. Of course, Alex Bowman's got the worst situation to pull out of. We'll see if Austin Dillon and Austin Cindric can pull themselves out.
And we'll hit those 6 drivers who got their best finish at Las Vegas. Obviously, Denny Hamlin getting first, but his best finish prior was 5th at Phoenix. Chase Elliott improved a little, 2nd over 4th at Daytona. William Byron 3rd, where it was 7th at Phoenix. Chris Buescher 6th at Vegas versus 7th at Daytona. Austin Dillon hit his 12th over 16th at Phoenix. Austin Cindric 19th, and that's sad, that's his best finish, but it was a prior of 26. And that relates to the points positions gained here. Denny Hamlin went from 12th to 4th, a gain of 8. Chase Briscoe picked up 7. Talked about him righting the ship. Austin Dillon 29th to 24th. Ryan Preece, and that moves him into a chase position, 18th to 13th at +5, as Gibbs jumped 5, 15th to 10th. And that's the points position loss. Shane Van Gisbergen lost 11. Michael McDowell 6. AJ Allmendinger 5, as did Todd Gillen. Joey Logano and Ty Dillon each lost 4. Allmendinger, the one that dropped out of chase position.
Okay. Next up, we'll talk about individual driver season updates. Notable individual performances. Ty Gibbs has 3 straight top 5 finishes for the first time in his career. And we're talking about, I think that's Cup Series career. I could be wrong. Chase Elliott's average finish is 9.4. That's his best through 5 races since 2017. Bubba Wallace's average finish at 8.8 this year ranks 2nd to teammate Tyler Reddick at 4.8. We've talked about that. His worst finish this season is that 11th Dakota. And 4 of the fastest stops in 26 were Christopher Bell's crew. 3 of the 4 came at Las Vegas, and I think that's impressive.
And the struggling drivers, I think we hit all these. Cole Custer, the only full-time driver without a top 20 this season. Austin Cindric, mentioned, ranking 30th, best finish of 19th. His most points earned in a race this season, 21. That was at Atlanta. Kyle Busch's average finish at 21.2 is his worst through 5 races as a Cup career. And I'll let Sharon show the chart here in a second. You can look at that. But Joey Logano ranks 5th in laps led in 2026 with 111, but has only 1 finish better than 15th, and that was 3rd at Daytona. And then we have 3 playoff drivers from 2025 that don't have the top 10: Austin Dillon, Austin Cindric, and Alex Bowman. And that blue chart there shows Kyle Busch's average finish through the first 5 races.
Okay, let's look at Bubba Wallace's progression this season. His average start is at 18.4. His stage 1 average finish, 11.0. Stage 2 average finish, an impressive 3.4. And his average finish at 8.8. So he leads all drivers in stage points, and his average finish ranks second. So kudos there to Bubba Wallace.
And we'll kind of do some wrap-up stuff here. The leftovers from Las Vegas. The last 2 races won by a driver who had an in-race penalty. Blaney pitting outside the box at Phoenix and Hamlin speeding at Las Vegas, but they were to overcome them. 3 of the 4 Joe Gibbs Racing cars overcame the penalty to finish in the top 8 at Vegas. Mentioned Hamlin, as did Ty Gibbs, speeding on lap 83, as well as Briscoe speeding on lap 132 and pitting outside the box on lap 84. And Tyler Reddick mentioned outside the top 10 for the first time this season, but every car was running at the end of the race.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Team and manufacturer performance, 2311 Racing is the only team with at least 1 car finishing top 10 in each of the 5 races this season. They also were first, second in points in 3 of the 5 races this year. Joe Gibbs Racing led more laps in the last 2 races, 358, than either Chevrolet at 233 or Ford at 235 all season. RFK, now keep in mind, Chevrolet has that new body this year, so they might still be working with that. RFK Racing's average finish of 13.9 is their best through 5 races since 2013, when it was at 13.3. And Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing had 7 of the top 8 finishers in Las Vegas. Hendrick Motorsports and Joe Gibbs Racing also led all but 14 laps at Las Vegas, 253 of the 267.
Well, and you can see Joe Gibbs Racing at least running up front and leading those laps, 452 laps led. Toyota really at the top because 2311 Racing second with 206. Team Penske, Hendrick Motorsports in the 180 range, and then Trackhouse Racing and RFK with 22 each at the bottom. Chevrolet is winless in 2026, their latest into a season without a win since 2019. Mentioned how good Toyota was doing. 2026, the first time they've won 4 of the 5 races in a season. And they mentioned that leading a total laps of Toyota, 677. That's more than Chevrolet and Ford combined at 468. And there you can see their overall performance in 2026, breaking down the manufacturers.
Okay. I'll let everybody read that for themselves. And then we're going to move on to Team Penske drivers. The worst average finish through 5 races. This goes back to 2008, I think, is the earliest on here. Austin Cindric's on this list in second with his 29.0 average finish this year. And Brad Keselowski, the other active driver, the year 2010, his average finish was 26.4.
And RCR is another one that's kind of struggling. Richard Childress Racing through the first 5 races, no top 10 finishes. That's the first since 1982. Average finish of 22.3, the worst since 2003 when it was 22.7. No drivers in the top 20 in points for the first time since 2002. Mentioned Austin Dillon just got their best finish of 12th at Las Vegas. Now, it's the only multi-car team without a top 10 this year.
Okay, now what teams finished the closest to each in 2026? Average spread of finishing positions with an organization. Average race speed at 6.4 for Colleague Racing. Average finish 18.8. That's an average run spread of 6.8. I'm trying to point out, without going through every number, some of the highlights here, I think, are Colleague with the least spread of all these drivers. Legacy Motor Club is the second, also at 6.8, but with a 9.2 versus 22.4 for the finish. And then the next best is 7.8 for Team Penske, between 21.6 average race and then at the finish of 19.3. And then all the others are a little bit worse. So
yeah, there's some high ones on there. There's some high ones on there that we talk about needing to right the ship.
Yeah, 18.7 for Hendrick Motorsports. That's pretty amazing. I would not have believed that for Hendrick Motorsports.
Well, and again, you talked about the getting their handle on the new Chevrolet body. I think we're seeing it. Yeah, I think we're seeing it come to fruition.
Okay, the ones to watch. You want to cover the hots and I'll cover the others?
All right. You got the hot. We know Denny Hamlin, first time or 5-time Darlington winner, finished. We gave these stats already 52% in the top 5, 74 in the top 10. Average finish is 7.9, and the average running position in the top 10 in 21 of the last 24 races. So one to certainly keep your eye on. We detailed Chase Briscoe won 2 of the last 3 at Darlington. 84% of the Southern 500 led in 2025, top 5 in 3 of the last 4, and finished top 3 in 4 of the last 6 stages. Tyler Reddick, we didn't mention him as much, but 4 top 3 finishes at Darlington with the next gen car. That's the most of any driver. Started in the top 10 in all 10 or the last 10 Darlington races, and then finished top 5 in 5 of the last 8 races.
Certainly top drivers to consider, but on the cold side, we've got to look at Joey Logano is not having a good start to the year. The last 5 Darlington, the last top 5 at Darlington was spring of 22. That was 7 races ago. Only 2 top 10 finishes at Darlington in the current car. He's not led in the last 7 races at Darlington, and he's finished 15th or worst in the last 4 races. Do not pick Joey Logano this week. Chase Elliott, another cold driver, only 1 top 10 finish in the last 4 races at Darlington. He's not scored stage points in any of the 4 Darlington races, and his average running position is outside the top 10 in the last 10 Darlington races. Your sleeper, Bubba Wallace, we talked about what a good start to the season he's had. He's finished top 10 in 5 of the last 7 races at Darlington. That's a huge contrast with Joey Logano. Scored stage points in the last 7 of the last 8 stages at Darlington, and his worst finish this season is the 11th. So he's on a good high right now. And we've talked about Eric Jones, how good he is at this track. 2-time Darlington winner, 6 top 5s, including a 3rd last fall. He's got 6 top 5s at Darlington. That's the most at any track for Eric Jones. Food for thought there.
I don't know if I put Eric Jones in the sleeper category, but I also wouldn't have put Joey Logano and Chase Elliott in the cold. I understand based on the stats, there's a reason for it. I would not have seen that coming. So with that, I don't know, picking just a driver out of the hot drivers, I would have to go to Tyler Reddick. But again, I didn't know Denny Hamlin's stats there. And you can't rule out Kyle Larson. So Sharon, I'm picking those 3 drivers.
Tell me who your top driver is.
Man, just the initial stats on Denny Hamlin, I still got to go with Tyler. I can only narrow it down to 2, Tyler Reddick or Kyle Larson, just because they can rip the fence.
Okay, I'm going to say Denny Hamlin or Chase Briscoe then, since you didn't give me one.
Well, those are the other 2. Yeah, I mean, how can you argue against them when it comes to stats? Maybe I'll change my.
Eric Jones surprises everybody, though, and gets that win.
And that's what I don't know if he's under the sleeper because of the changeover with Legacy Motor Club now. If that's why he's under the sleeper category, but definitely a solid pick. Maybe by Friday when you guys do your fantasy preview there, we'll get it narrowed down to 1 pick each. Man, that's a tough one. Darlington's a tough one to pick just one.
Okay, just a reminder, Hot Topic Sound Off, our review and Hot Topic discussion on Monday nights, 8:15 p.m. Central Time. Then we'll do an interview on Tuesday. Watch for that. I think I'm interviewing Sal this week, Jay.
Oh, nice. So, as if you don't talk to him often enough, right?
So watch for that interview coming up. He is a photographer, and he'll talk about being a photographer with NASCAR. Then on Wednesday night, 6 o'clock Central Time, we have Race Chat Live with Chris Crichton, Taz Taylor, and CJ. Watch for that every Wednesday at 6. Then Jay and I do the previews that come out on Thursday and Friday. I've got Taz's interview. I'm going to probably put that out sometime before the weekend, so watch for that to come out. And then we have the fantasy report on Friday as well. So definitely, if you're looking for your picks for this weekend at Darlington, catch the fantasy report on Friday. So with that, Jay, we want to say thank you to everybody for tuning in. We appreciate each and every one of you.
We do, and enjoy the weekend. Again, all 3 series running at the same track, and it's a good one. Darlington, the Lady in Black.
Okay, take care, everybody. We'll see you soon.